As National Vice President, I wear a lot of hats, and I'm honored to have collected nominations for the Father Flanagan Human Dignity Award. As we move into our presentations, I collected nominations, facilitated the balloting, and we were thrilled to select Boys Town. And Boys Town was nominated by the Father Flanagan Division here in Omaha, along with the Omaha State Board. And the foundation of Boys Town, of course, are homes that are built upon love, faith, and compassion. And all boys were welcome, regardless of race or religion, and they lived as a family. The child care ministry of today's Boys Town continues Father Flanagan's vision of saving vulnerable children and strengthening families. Boys Town has always welcomed and continues to welcome disenfranchised and abandoned individuals because, like all people, every person possesses inherent dignity and worth. Through its educational programs, behavioral health services, mentoring, and unwavering support, Boys Town has given countless children the opportunity to grow into healthy, productive, and successful adults who otherwise might never have had that chance. The 2026 recipient of the Father Flanagan Human Dignity Award are Boys Town.
Well, first off, just to say a word of thanks to the Hibernians for this award, named after our founder, Father Flanagan. My name is Father Jeff Mollner. I know that doesn't sound Irish even a little bit, but I had two very Irish grandmothers. So they instilled in us the importance of Irish culture, Irish music, Irish heritage. So much to the point that when I was ordained a priest, I said, for the party, I want two things: a keg of Guinness and an Irish band. And my mom fought me, but we had it. Not only an Irish band, it's the same Irish band we have here tonight. I will say 18 years ago, when that happened, they were a lot more rowdy. I think we all probably were. You know, naming this award after Father Flanagan, this humanitarian award, it makes perfect sense because he founded Boys Town on this principle that there was no such thing as a bad boy. There was only bad environment, bad teaching, bad example. And he rooted that belief in the fundamental Christian teaching that we were all created in the image and likeness of God. And those values and that belief is what allows us to keep doing this work over 100 years later. Without that belief in the inherent human dignity of all these children that come to us, it just wouldn't survive. Now, the majority of my work is on campus with about the 300 youth that call Boys Town. And they come to us in all sorts of different circumstances. But the one common thread is that they're there because their lives have not gone right. They come to us with criminal backgrounds. They come to us with neglect, abuse, drug use, all these different things. And working in that environment can be often very challenging. So for me, it means I spend a lot of time in Dowd Chapel. If you've got a chance to visit this week in that beautiful church that Father Flanagan built. So when I go and I pray there at night, I go into Father's tomb, I ask the question that I'm sure Father asked as well. And it's a question that I think we all have at some point when we experience difficulty or struggle, especially in the lives of young people. I ask, why does it turn out the way it does? Why do these students come with this very, very, very difficult life or this difficult past? I'm often drawn then to pray and look at the scriptures, especially the 9th chapter of John's Gospel. It's where Jesus encounters the man born blind. And his apostles, his disciples, those who are following him, they ask him that same question in their own way. They say, who sinned? Why did this happen? Is it this man or was it his parents? And while Jesus doesn't give an answer that would satisfy kind of the cynic who kind of is demanding that kind of why, instead, he points his apostles, he points disciples, and I think he points us into a different realm, a different way to look at it. Because what Jesus answers to that question of why did this happen, he says, well, it's so that the works of God can be seen through him. And I think when we look at the lives of the youth who come to Boys Town, or any of us who work in an area where you're up against the struggle, the evil in the world, I know the Hibernians do so much good work in that arena. We do it because we believe that despite that darkness, despite that evil, that God is at work, and we can see the work of God even in those very difficult times. One of my very favorite quotes by Father Flanagan, and he said that there's a wisdom to looking at the bright side of life. It's a very simple old quote. I keep it on my desk. I don't think that was a naive approach to the world, right? I don't think he was just trying to say, oh, things aren't so bad. Because remember, this was a man who confronted the most grave evils of his time. He went up against the juvenile justice system. He went up against racism. He went toe-to-toe with the Ku Klux Klan here in Omaha. He did all these things because he believed that despite all of those evils, despite all those things that could be wrong with the world, that there was a more powerful thing at work. And that is God's grace shining even in those darkest moments. One of our administrators at Boys Town, he often tells the youth this story. He tells them that if they were to go into our gym, the beautiful big gym there, so if you were to turn out all the lights in that gym, and if you were to light one single match, he says it wouldn't do anything to light that gym. But what it would do, it would tell all those other people in the darkness that there's a light over there. I believe that Father Flanagan in this world, while he lived, he did what he could to be that light in the world. And what he did, and the way he lived his life, was something that attracted so many people to Boys Town. Thousands of visitors still come to see us, but even before the movie, it led to a movie being made. Even if they weren't experiencing the exact same thing that Boys Town was confronting, Father Flanagan could offer them hope. He could offer them that belief that no matter how bad or how dark things could get, that light of Christ would always shine in the world. And even if it didn't light all the darkness around it, it pointed people towards it. I think today, what we look at in Father Flanagan's life is we want him to continue to be that light. We're very fortunate, as you know, we're getting closer on his path to sainthood. We received the news last May that he was elevated to venerable. So we're waiting now for those miracles to happen so that we can see what so many of us already believe. That he lived that life of great heroic virtue that provides that wonderful example that we still get to follow. If you've ever been on Boys Town's campus, or if you have kind of seen any of our literature or anything, you know what our national logo looks like. It's that image of two boys, one boy carrying the other boy on his back. And that's gone through different iterations throughout time. Now it's a boy carrying a girl on his back. We started serving girls back in the 70s. And it's actually based off of a true story of two boys that actually came to live at Boys Town. The boy on the other boy's back, his name was Howard Lewis. And when Howard came to Boys Town, he had polio, which means he couldn't walk. And the way it worked is that the kids would carry him around. Well, that was easy when he was little. He came to Boys Town very young, but as he got older, he grew. Well, one day, another boy named Reuben Granger was carrying piggyback style, like you see on our logo, and somebody snapped a photo of that. And again, that would become our national logo. And the story behind it goes is that when Father Flanagan saw them, he said, isn't he getting heavy? And his response was, of course, he ain't heavy, Father, he's my brother. That belief in the universal brotherhood, that universal sisterhood, right? That we simply will not survive as a country, we will not survive as a people, we will not survive as a church, unless we really hold on to that. The very fact that when he could look at the boys and say there's no such thing as a bad boy, he saw something even deeper than that. He saw the inherent truth of what all those boys were made to do when they came to Boys Town. What all of us were made to do. Whether you're a bishop, a priest, whatever you do. It's that belief that we were created to love, to be loved, right? To love God, to be loved by God, to love others, to receive love from other people. One of the great things about what we talk about with the ancient Order of Hibernians, as you know, Father Flanagan was a member of the Hibernians, right? So he was one who was very proudly part of this group. You talk about those three important tenets: friendship, unity, and Christian charity. Well, that's just another way of saying there's no such thing as a bad boy, right? We are meant to be friendship and be in friendship with all of our brothers and sisters. We pray for unity, not just in countries like Ireland or not just across the world. We pray for unity as a people, across religions, across races, across cultures. And of course, we believe that to live out Christian charity is the way that we were all meant to live. Father Flanagan, I believe, certainly lived out all of these things. He lived out those beliefs of friendship, unity, and Christian charity. I think if you were still here with us today, people always ask me, one of the weird things about Boys Town, there are a ton of ghost stories in Boys Town. I don't know. There are, actually I do know. I'll tell one little secret here. One of our former family teachers, he said ghost stories are sometimes helpful to keep the boys in their rooms. So maybe it's some of that. But the truth is, people often ask me, they say, well, have you ever seen Father Flanagan? We have all these stories of our youth that would try to run away. And they would come back and they'd say, well, that priest standing down in the valley told me to come back. And they'd say, well, which priest is that? Well, that one right there, pointing up to the picture of Father Flanagan. So all these stories of that. But people often ask me, what would you ask Father Flanagan if you had a chance to talk to him? I don't know if I'll ever get that opportunity. In heaven, hopefully, right? But I would ask him, do you think we're doing a good job? In other words, are we doing what you set out to do? Because we've come a long way from what he started back in 1917. We now have a national research hospital that operates all over the world. We work in foster care. We have a crisis hotline that takes over 100,000 calls a year. That last year alone stopped 500 active suicide attempts. So many of these great things that we've built off of one very simple principle. There are no such thing as a bad boy. People are inherently good. And that's the question I would ask. Do you think we're doing it well enough? One thing about Father Flanagan, he would have answered for himself, not yet. He always strove to do more and be better. And I think for us, that's a good legacy that he can leave for us. Yes, we live by these ideals, like I said, friendship, unity, Christian charity, but we can always do them better. Not just as a group of Hibernians, but as people. So, on behalf of some 3,000 employees now that work at Boys Town, thank you for this. And I'm so glad that you got to come to our city to learn a little bit more about Father Flanagan. Because we believe in our church, right, that the saints are alive with Christ. And we're hoping that he goes on that thing, which means we can pray to him for guidance. We can ask for his intercession. But most of all, I think we can look at his example of his life and to try to live out those same ideals that he showed us even way back then. Thank you very much.